Everything looked completely normal that morning. It wasn't. A golden retriever blocking a toddler from walking down a hallway does not look like protection. It looks like a dog that hasn't been exercised enough. It looks like attention-seeking behavior from an animal that has been displaced by the arrival of a small human who gets more attention. It looks, depending on who is watching and what they believe about dogs, like one of a dozen ordinary things that have ordinary explanations. It does not look like a dog standing guard in front of the only thing that matters. Nolan Price had owned Birch since before he met his wife. The Golden was 3 years old, 72 pounds, amber fur that had gone slightly darker at the shoulders over the winter. He was the kind of dog that made strangers say that with a smile and nothing else. Just that. Jasper was their son, 2 years and 4 months old, a child who had discovered that running was better than walking and had not yet been convinced otherwise. The first morning it happened, Jasper was heading toward the back hallway to get to the playroom. He did this 15 times a day. It was a straight line between the living room and the room with all his things in it, and he traveled it at speed. Birch came from the kitchen and sat down at the entrance to the hallway before Jasper reached it. Sat down directly, squarely, in the center of the opening. Jasper walked up to him, reached out both hands to pat the dog's face, said something that was not yet a word, and went around him. Nolan watched this and thought nothing. Dogs do things. The second day, it happened 3 times. Birch moving to the hallway entrance before Jasper reached it. Not rushing, not alarmed, simply arriving first and sitting. The third day, Nolan's wife Therese noticed. She mentioned it over dinner. He's doing a herding thing, Nolan said. He read this was normal for the breed. Therese is a physical therapist. She works with children recovering from neurological events. She has a specific understanding of how the body fails in ways that look, to people without training, like ordinary clumsiness. She watched Birch sit in the hallway entrance on the 4th morning and felt something she couldn't name settle in the back of her mind. She put it there and did not take it out yet. On the 6th day, Jasper fell. Not the fall of a toddler who has misjudged a step. The fall of a toddler whose left leg simply did not do what the right leg expected it to. A collapse, brief, the kind a child recovers from by standing up and moving on. Jasper stood up. Birch, who had been 3 feet away, crossed to him and pressed his muzzle to Jasper's left knee for 4 seconds. Then he sat between Jasper and the hallway. Therese took that thought out of the back of her mind. She did not say anything to Nolan that night. She said it to her colleague the next morning. Dr. Farrow, a pediatric neurologist she had worked alongside for 2 years. She described what she'd seen. The falls, the left side bias she'd noticed when Jasper ran. The way Birch had been positioning himself specifically in the boy's path, always the same location, always facing the same direction. Dr. Farrow said 4 words. Bring him in Tuesday. Subscribe if you stay for the stories about what animals detect before medicine does. You belong here. The MRI happened on a Thursday morning. Jasper wore a yellow hospital gown printed with small blue rockets and held a stuffed dog with one ear that Therese had packed without thinking about why. The imaging took 38 minutes. The results came back in 4 hours. Dr. Farrow sat across a small table from Nolan and Therese and used the word lesion once and then did not use it again. She used other words. Arteriovenous malformation, left hemisphere, borderline operable. The kind of thing that had been quietly developing for months, perhaps longer, invisible and unannounced, until the moment it was not. She explained that in children this young, the presenting symptoms are often subtle. A slight weakness on one side, occasional loss of balance, a gait irregularity that parents read as normal clumsiness in a learning child. The kind of thing a dog might notice from the floor. Therese did not cry in the consultation room. She asked 3 clinical questions and wrote the answers on the back of a pharmacy receipt she found in her jacket pocket. She cried in the parking garage briefly, with Nolan's arm around her and the concrete smell of a structure that holds too many people's worst news. Then she stopped, Has your dog ever reacted to something you dismissed until the day you couldn't dismiss it anymore? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Birch had spent 9 mornings positioning himself between a 2-year-old and a hallway with a step down at the far end. The step that Jasper's newly compromised left side would eventually fail to negotiate cleanly. The step that, given the trajectory of what was growing quietly in that boy's left hemisphere, represented a fall that could have become something a fall should not become. The dog had no MRI. He had his nose, which could detect the chemical signature of neurological change, the specific compounds the body releases when blood pressure shifts in the brain, when cellular activity changes in ways that emit a scent no human instrument had yet been designed to register. He had his eyes, which had been watching Jasper run for 2 years, and knew the exact way his left leg fell differently now than it had 3 weeks ago. He had his body, which he had placed every morning for 9 days, in the one location that meant, not yet, not today, not while I am here. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Jasper's surgery was scheduled for 6 weeks out. He came home from the consultation with a juice box and a sticker of a dump truck, and no understanding of any of what had happened. He ran toward the back hallway. Birch came from the kitchen and sat down in the entrance. Jasper put both hands on the dog's face. Nolan stood in the living room doorway and watched them. He thought about 9 mornings of a dog sitting in a hallway and a family that had every explanation except the correct one. He thought about the step at the far end of the hallway. He thought about what a left hemisphere AVM looks like on a screen versus what it looks like from the floor, from 4 paws and a nose pressed to a 2-year-old's knee. Birch waited until Jasper had patted his face enough times to satisfy whatever the boy needed. Then he stood up. He walked to the far end of the hallway, to the step, and lay down across it. He stayed there all afternoon,